Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praises to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth. So we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Brethren, we're in the season of Black History Month. We're in the season of the final month before our new year. And I just feel the urge. The Most High, I think, wants to use me to bring a little something out right now. We're going to bring us some information that the Most High has given to us that confirms what we've already been learning. But this is a new, like a detour to more knowledge and understanding. See, for Black History Month, we're going to go ahead and continue to destroy white history. See, you guys have given us Black History Month, and you've always, your teachers are always trying to give our kids certain topics of certain people that we can research. You always got the good old always Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. They always want to push, Martin Luther King. Don't fight. Hold hands, kumbaya moments. They got certain ones that they want to, they want to steer you to talk about. You can't write, you can't go look at Nat Turner. They don't want you looking at that. They want to portray him as being evil for fighting against his slave masters. Can't talk about people like Malcolm X. They don't allow you to pick anybody. But that's the only people they give you pretty much is Martin Luther King. Because that's the mold that they want us to follow. Take the ass whooping, take the butt kicking all the time, and just try to love your enemy. Just hug it out. After he does all these horrible things to you, just hug it out. But see, we're not even going to talk about our history because you've hidden our people. You've hidden our history. We're going to turn it on you. And we're going to show you that you have no history. The white people's history is actually our history. That's why they don't allow you to do any research. So for Black History Month, I just find it fitting that we are going to go ahead and destroy white history. Now we're going to, I said there's always been some kind of a connection between Britain and Ireland and America. We're getting more information, but we haven't, just feels like things are missing. Well, the Most High has found it fitting to give us this book right here. The Anglo-Saxons by S. Turner. This book right here, it's called The History of the Anglo-Saxons by Sharon Turner. Okay? I got the one with the second edition, correct and enlarged, volume 1. So we're going to be getting into today. See, once we have the understanding of who we are, once we have the understanding of that code word of the Celts, which we know are our people, once we understand that we were the ones that were in Britain and we were the ones, okay, that were in Ireland, among many other places in Europe, then when you start reading these books and they're always referring to the Celts and how advanced they were, and they were maritime people, they were seafaring people. We're not even going to get into that today. We're going to get into some other stuff before we even get into that. But we understand that Black Celts book was the that we got from the sister was the one that really opened up, it was that key that went in and unlocked so much information. This book was referenced in a Genesis 3:15 book that I've referenced many times. We're always talking about the white people being the Most High's chosen people. that British Israelism kind of a thing going on. Again, we can destroy that history because they believe that those are the people that they were not the ones that were there. When the real is, they just came in and just assumed our identity, and they assumed being British, they assumed being Irish, and then they assumed being all these other places in Europe, and they assumed the identity of the Israelites that were there before them. This is going to start to link up to how we're going to read right now, how we said that the things that happened over in Britain happened first, and then it got transferred to over here. Now look at the plague. Things are starting over there. The variants were starting where? In the UK. That's what they call it, the UK variant or whatever. Okay? Things are starting there. And then they're just moving over here. Anything that happens over there in the UK seems to just follow right along to happening over here. Things are locked down right now. They're having a hard time with these variants. They're the ones that are actually the ones who are doing most of the research, the best research in the UK. Now that variant is over here. It's already starting to pick up. And they opened up everything, which I'm like, hey, that's great. I'm glad you guys open up your churches. Please go pray. Get on those ley lines. Go pray. Because you're going to realize that we're the ones that activate those ley lines. The Most High is not listening to any of your prayers in the churches. But please, if you feel that that's going to help you, you've made your choice. Please go pray. Go out to Super Bowl. Go have your good time. Go party. Because you're going to do that anyways. That's what you're made for. You're the vessels that were fitted for destruction. They talk about in Romans 9. You know no better. So I should keep it politically correct. No, guys, don't go do that. Make sure you follow the directions of the CDC and all of your elected officials. And please wear a mask and social distance. Okay? There you go. Well, we already know you guys are going to do whatever you guys want to do. But this is huge because now you're going to get your history from your own people. Because you're not going to necessarily believe me. You're not probably going to believe her either. It doesn't matter. But like I said, we're going to destroy white history during Black History Month. So let's get into this book right quick. And I was asking one of the brothers to kind of break down the whole 10 and how 10 was so important. And he gave me a lot of great information. And they're talking about the islands of 10. So you're talking about Britain, because Britain had a lot of 10 that people wanted to use, okay? So in the top there, it's 12, right? The islands of 10, or Cassiterides. This being a descriptive name was probably the translation of the Phoenicians' appellation. Now remember, all these names, England, Ireland, all these, we weren't using these names back then. So they were using as describing what the lands had, okay? As Herodotus intimates that the Cassiterides, let's go on the page. Cassiterides were, with respect to Greece, in the farthest part of Europe. As Aristotle talks of Celtic 10, and Strabo describes both these islands and Britain to be opposite to the Artibri or Galicia, okay, in Spain. But as in another passage, he states them to be without or on our side of the columns of Hercules. As he mentions them to be productive of 10, obviously connecting them at the same time with the British Islands. And in another part, as being in an open sea, north from the port of the Artibri, or Galicia. The most learned, both at home and abroad, have believed the Cassiterides to have been some of the British islands. This opinion is warranted by there being no other islands famous for tin near the parts designated by Strabo, and by the fact that British tin was so celebrated in antiquity that Polybius intended to write on the British islands and the preparation of tin. So we're talking about tin, talking about how great it is, talking about all the different usages of it, and also that tin is actually integral with making ships and making them seaworthy and making them waterproof. So we talked about how, the people in Britain had these navies, the best navies in the world. I'm sure that's pretty synonymous with the tin and and the other things that they needed, the other resources they needed to build these ships. Now it makes sense as to why, we talked about how Solomon had a great navy. Well, you don't think Solomon would have needed tin to make his ships? So then it would make sense that he would have had control of these islands in order to make his ships as well. Because his ships were going all the way around the world, circumnavigating the world. They were going to the Americas. They were going on these 3.5-year trips. He had a lot of them, a lot of ships. So let's keep going. And it doesn't seem like the so-called white man had access to this tin and these resources until he got his hands on our islands. So let's continue. You're gonna see how this all starts to kind of make sense in a minute. It has been suggested that the Sicily Islands and Cornwall were more peculiarly meant by the Cassiterides. When Cornwall was first discovered from the south of Europe, it may have been thought an island, before greater familiarity with the coast taught the navigators that it was only a projecting part of a larger country. And even then, when the whole country connected with it was found to be an island, there was no reason to change its insular appellation. In our navigations to the Pacific, new discovered places have been at first marked as islands, which were afterwards traced to be parts of a continent. And others have been deemed continental, which have been discovered to be insular. Now, check this part out, okay? Look at what's going on. Much of the false description with which the position of the Cassiterides has been confused may have been designedly circulated by the Phoenicians themselves. Okay, so now we got the Phoenicians hiding these islands, hiding where they're getting this tin. We talked about this before, about how the Phoenicians, and that was from the Secret Voyages book, how the Phoenicians were hiding their routes to the Americas. So now we have proof of them doing it even in Europe. Hello, you look at it, it's not that far, but they could not. These other nations could not find Britain, and the Phoenicians were right in there causing the confusion. Let's continue. So again, may have been designedly circulated by the Phoenicians themselves. We know from Strabo that they were anxious to deprive the rest of the world of any acquaintance with these islands. So as you can see, they're like monopolizing their information, with their cargo, where they're getting their resources from. They don't want the rest of the world to know. So they were hiding how to get to Britain. They were giving false information. Like the Phoenicians are always like the middlemen, and they're always keeping the other nations in the world from finding our stuff, from finding the chosen people's lands and to finding the chosen people's resources. You see that? So you guys were not in Britain. You were not the original inhabitants of Britain. As you can see from right here, the Phoenicians were making it so you couldn't even find our lands. You couldn't find Britain. You couldn't find Ireland at first. And these guys were the ones that were helping keep you from us. But ultimately, it was the Most High. See, we made covenants with the Most High. The covenants were, if we followed the Most High, he would keep the other nations away from us. Our lands were always to be holy, separate, away from the other nations. That's why those maps and about, what is it? There's promised lands being in the Middle East and surrounded by all of these other nations aren't true. The Most High kept us separated. I'm sure, he made the Phoenicians successful in hiding our information. Means, when the Most High wants to keep you separated, he will do that. He will keep you away from us, which is exactly what he's going to do again right now. He's about sweeping you guys off the land. And just like it talks about in Revelations 18, how all of the other merchants are all crying, because they know they're not going to be able to, exploit our resources anymore. It's going to go back to the way it was before, how they could not get to us, how they are going to be separated from our holy lands. So when you hear about Revelation 18 and they're all crying, they know that they were not allowed to find us before, and they will not be able to find us again. The ones that will be staying in the Holy Lands are going to be the Most High's chosen people that he has called, and the Gentiles that are cleaving to the Most High's chosen people, as it was before. Let's continue. So again, we know from Strabo that they were anxious to deprive the rest of the world of any acquaintance with these islands. He was told, or he has told us, a very striking incident of this monopolizing solicitude, which must have been the parent of many misrepresentations about Britain till the Romans subdued and examined it. Like I said, he uses the Romans a lot of times as a whooping stick. He used the Romans, you look at the statue, and it was the Romans that took down the Israelites. They took down the southern kingdom. And then eventually he used them to bring down the northern kingdom. So let's go check this out right here. Again, which must have been the parent of many misrepresentations about Britain. So they said they were lying, keeping that monopoly going till the Romans subdued and examined it. He says, now remember, if you think about the Romans, it's like the Romans knew everything. The Romans were so smart, and they had, they knew all this stuff, right? Well, let's check this out. Let's see how smart they were right here. Anciently, the Phoenicians alone from Cadiz engrossed this market, hiding the navigation from all others. All others. That could include you Romans too. You didn't know about this. You didn't know about this place. This was also like the new land for you, a new world for you. You had no idea about what Britain was, what it had. You might have knew about what it had, just like you guys when you guys got over here to the new world. You knew what it had because the Phoenicians had been doing, trades with us, and you got our resources. So you knew what you were going to find as far as resources were concerned. That's why, Columbus came over here and they were looking for gold. Let's continue. And that's huge right there because it says, engrossed the market, hiding the navigation from all others. So they were not dealing with you other people, you Gentiles, the so-called Indo-Europeans that barely showed up way later. So you weren't controlling this island. You only got control of it later on when the Most High allowed you to go there. It says, when the Romans followed the course of a vessel. See, they were trying to find, this place. It says they would follow the Phoenicians, okay? So when the Romans followed the course of a vessel, that they might discover the situation, the jealous pilot willfully stranded his ship, misleading those who were tracing him to the same destruction. So you see that the Phoenicians, when they knew they were being followed by Romans or anybody, would destroy their ships, shipwreck themselves in order to keep their navigation secrets. So this wasn't, like I said, this is why this is so important. This was not so-called white people or Indo-Europeans that are there today. They did not know how to get to Britain or Ireland. So all your stuff about how you were great seafaring people is a lie. Only way you got brought to Britain and Ireland was by the Most High letting you come there. But before that wasn't happening. So the people that are here or there now were not the original inhabitants. You got brought over there, and now it makes sense as to why when you got over there, you did exactly what you always do. You destroyed our landmarks, built on top of them, and make it seem as if you've always been there. But see, the Most High, before we even knew it, we already saw that England or Britain is being destroyed. The plague is already destroying them. It is destroying them first, and it follows suit to come over here. Now we understand why. They got their hands on the land, all the lands of Britain, Ireland. They got hands on the tin and other resources. Then they were able to build up their navy like we'd already had one. We had it first. When the Most High let them come over, then they got the opportunity to build up their navy. And after that, that's how they built up their navy and were able to go worldwide and have their kingdom where the sun never set on their kingdom. Let's continue. Okay. He has told us a very strikingly incident of the monopolizing. Okay, right here. I just love actually hearing that because and hey, this is coming from a woman who's writing on the history of the anglo-saxons. Okay. It says, when the Romans followed the course of a vessel, that they might discover the situation, the jealous pilot willfully stranded his ship, misleading those who were tracing him to the same destruction. Escaping from the shipwreck, he was indemnified, okay, for his losses. Indemnify. It means to compensate someone for harm or loss. Okay? To indemnify is to compensate someone for harm or loss. Okay? So that's what they did. He would shipwreck himself on purpose, and then they would pay him for doing that. So escaping from the shipwreck, he was compensated for his losses out of the public treasury. So these guys set money up in order to pay for the losses for him wrecking his own ship. You see, so this is all set up. It's like, hey, don't give them the information. If you get followed, you have to, destroy your ship. You lose your money. You lose, what you're carrying and everything else, your load right there. Don't worry about it. We'd much rather you wreck that ship and we'll give you the money in order, and that's much better than you leading them to our islands. Okay? I just think that's absolutely amazing, how sophisticated, keeping this information is. Just like when you look at Black Panther and Wakanda and how they went out of their way to keep people from finding what they had. How the technological advances that they had, they were just sitting there using it to keep everybody away from what they had. And that's exactly what's going on right here in this history. Okay? Now it says, when Caesar invaded Britain, we know from his commentaries that he was unacquainted with its magnitude. Let's read that one more time. When Caesar invaded Britain, we know from his commentaries that he was unacquainted with its magnitude, its harbors, or its people. So he knew nothing about this land, knew nothing about the harbors, knew nothing about the people. So first Indo-Europeans showing up here knew nothing about this because it was all kept a secret. Is this not following a pattern? Exactly the same thing that they did. We read in Secret Voyages, how they were keeping all this information away from the Indo-Europeans. They did the same. They did this with Britain, okay, and Ireland, and they did the same thing with our holy lands over here in the Americas. So again, how you find out which lands are ours, look at the ones that have a history of the other nations not being able to find them. They couldn't find Britain or Ireland, those are our lands too. They couldn't find the Americas, definitely our lands also. And I kind of skipped up a few pages. There's way more that I'm going to be getting into. So I love that there. When Caesar invaded Britain, we know from his commentaries that he was unacquainted with its magnitude, its harbors, or its people. It was even doubted whether it was a continent or an island. Of course, the Romans at that time, could have known nothing of the connection and continuance of coast between Cornwall and Dover. This ignorance of other nations and the designed misinformation given by the Phoenicians. So the next page I put the pictures up when we go on to this page next time. May have occasioned the distinction to have been taken between the Cassiterides and Britain, and a supposition favored by Strabo that some sea intervened. The Cassiterides had become imperfectly known to the Romans in the time of Strabo by the attempt of Publius Crassus to discover them. He seems to have landed at one of them, but the short account given of his voyages does not incline us to believe that he completely explored them. And we're going to stop right there. So now we understand that this whole new world didn't just start with the Americas. This new world that these other nations, that these Gentiles were now being, able to discover, started not just here in the Americas, but it started in Britain. And it started in Ireland. Most High had kept them away. But then we know now that we get all this information about the maps and the ley lines. Now we understand that our people had those lands first. They came in, wiped everything off of our lands, just like we talked about how the Romans, they did not destroy everything, but they just wiped off, everything that was on the lands, the churches, the landmarks, and built on top of them. And they made it seem as if they've been there the whole time. So we talk about the New World. The New World isn't just the Americas. The New World is also Britain, and Ireland. So we still got a lot of month coming, whole lot of Black History Month coming. But we're going to use this history month, this Black History Month, to destroy the white history and the white lies. Now we understand, like I said, why the Most High is dealing right now with Britain and Ireland, all those islands right there too, because those were our lands. And not until the Most High allowed you to get over there did he give you that, that power. But now it's time for payback. You better start telling the truth. Telling the truth of who you destroyed. Telling the truth about who you stole lands from. And how all you've done is just copy our history and made it seem like it was your own. So white history that we're forced to listen to the other 11 months is nothing but a bunch of lies. A bunch of lies that you cannot prove. And like I said, this is your own book. This is about a woman who did history, who did her research and wrote about your history. So I think we'll continue bringing out some more information that you guys actually told on yourselves. We got some more from other countries over there that we're going to realize aren't as old. The Indo-Europeans have not been established as long. So we'll have fun with the rest of Black History Month. But I venture to say it won't be fun for white history. All praise is to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledge it, Yahweh Shai. Shalom.